Attention! All hose testing will be completed at the training tower. Your fire helmet and gloves must be worn while connecting and testing hose. Please use safe fireground practices while working with small engines, hose, hydrants, and tools. Hose testing equipment and replacement hose will be kept in the compressor room at logistics and is not to be removed. You will find that hose testing equipment, appliances, and fittings is marked with green paint. It is important that when finished testing, you put the items away neatly in the boxes provided. New or replacement hose is stored on the red racks. Old or failed hose will be tagged and placed in the southwest corner to the left of the compressor. Do not place retired or failed hose on the red racks. There are 2 hose testing pumps. Both have been serviced and are ready for hose testing. Prior to setting up hose for testing, perform a small engine check on the pump. Check for fuel and check the oil dipstick, ensuring that there is an adequate amount of oil. Please report any leaks or problems found with the equipment to the captain overseeing hose testing. Prior to making hose connections, ensure that the rubber hose gasket is in place on all couplings. Regardless of hose diameter, a maximum of 300 feet may be connected to a single discharge outlet on the hose tester. Note the hose manufacture date. Any hose older than 25 years shall be tagged and removed from service. You will find that all fire hose is stamped with a number on the coupling or labeled on the hose jacket itself. All hose should be stamped with a number. If it is not, or it is new hose, you must stamp the number on the female coupling. Available numbers are listed in the binder, and print the number with a permanent marker on the hose jacket. Important: all tested hose needs to be documented on company web. Remember to tag, document, and remove failed hose from service. Next, you will need to connect the hose testing pump to a water source. Make hydrant connections, ensuring that all appliances are snug, and then be sure to bleed the hydrant of excess air so that it does not affect the hose testing pressures. Two and a half inch diameter hose is used to connect the hydrant to the hose tester.
Oh boy. Smell fuel.
Again, make sure all couplings are tight. The 300-foot lengths of fire hose to be tested are connected to the hose tester discharge outlets. Once attached, a spanner is used to snug up the fitting. Note that 1 3/4 and 2.5 inch hose may be tested at the same time. Once the hose to be tested is connected, it will look something like this. Please note the 2.5 inch hose leading to the fire hydrant. Before filling the hoses with water, ensure that all couplings have been tightened with spanners. Here you can see the bleeder valve caps have been attached to the end of each line to be tested. Caution: prior to charging hose lines, you must ensure all couplings have gaskets and have been tightened with a spanner. Ensure the hose jacketing does not show signs of unusual wear or damage, and that all caps are in place with the bleeder valves in the open position. To begin testing, open the 2.5 inch ball valve on the hose tester. This will fill the lines. Lift the end of each line to be tested and open the bleeder valve. This will expel unwanted air. This should be done for approximately 30 seconds per hose. Walk the hose lines and try to identify any leaking couplings. Attempt to stop the leak by tightening again with spanners. If the leak cannot be stopped, the hose gasket may need to be replaced. Important: if a leak cannot be stopped by tightening the coupling connection or by replacing the hose gasket, the hose will not hold pressure and the test will be invalid. The hose should be tagged and removed from service. Once the hose lines have been charged, walk the hose lines and mark the coupling ends with a permanent marker. This will be used to identify if there's any stretching from the coupling once pressurized. To start the pump, ensure that the pump to discharge manifold valve is open. Ensure that the kill switch is in the run position. Set the throttle to low. Ensure that the fuel line valve is in the open position and the choke is properly set. Pull to start. Then adjust the choke and throttle. To adjust the pump discharge pressure, turn the dial clockwise to increase the pressure. Once the hose tester reaches 300 psi for 1 3/4 and 2.5 inch hose, or 200 psi for 5 inch hose, you're ready to test. You just need to close the 1/4 inch gate valve from the pump to the manifold. Then you will shut off the pump. It is not necessary to keep the pump running during the test. Start the clock at 3 minutes and wait. While waiting for the 3 minutes, personnel should walk the hose line, keeping a minimum of 15 feet safety distance between themselves and the hose, looking for any leaks. Once 3 minutes has passed, you may release the pressure at the end of each line using the bleeder valve. Remember those marks you made at the coupling? If there is a 1/4 inch space between the mark and the coupling itself, the coupling should be tagged and the hose removed from service. 5-inch hose testing. When testing 5-inch hose, connect the pumper to a hydrant for a water source. A section of 2.5 inch hose must be between the discharge and the 5-inch hose to be tested. Remember that 5-inch hose is the only hose to be tested using the fire engine. Only 300 feet of 5-inch may be tested at one time. Remember to ensure that each coupling has a hose gasket and that there are no signs of unusual wear or damage to the hose prior to testing. Stort's to 2.5 inch reducer will be placed on the 5-inch hose to be tested. Make sure that it is locked in place. Next, you'll use this fitting, which is a 2.5 inch gate with a drilled hole in the ball valve. This will allow the hose to be pressurized but control the hose should there be an incident and keep it from whipping around. You'll need a double female to make the connection from the 2.5 inch gate to the 2.5 inch hose leading to the fire pumper. Place a Stort's cap on the end of the 5-inch hose to be tested. Attached should be a bleeder valve so that air may be bled from the hose for testing. At the pumper, open the discharge gate to fill the hose with water. Remember, tighten all fittings using spanners to ensure there are no leaks. Once the hose is completely filled, you will need to walk the hose line again to make sure that all fittings are snug and there are no leaks. You're looking for any abnormal wear on the hose. Once at the end of the hose line, lift the end cap a little into the air, allowing it to purge the air out of the hose for at least 30 seconds. Close the bleeder valve and the 2.5 inch gate valve with the drilled hole, and you're ready to test. At the hose panel, the engineer will run the pump pressure up, slowly increasing it and waiting for the discharge dial to read 200 psi. Once 200 psi is reached, start the clock at 3 minutes and wait. Once 3 minutes has passed, close the discharge gate at the pump and bleed the line of pressure. Just as with 1 3/4 and 2½ inch hose, inspect to see if hose has slipped at the coupling more than 1/4 inch. If the hose had leaks which could not be corrected with tightening of the coupling, replacing the hose gasket, or is older than 25 years, tag the hose and remove it from service.